Okay, guys, thank you everyone for joining me. Those who are live on the webinar, thank you. Those who are listening to this delayed on the podcast or watching this on YouTube or elsewhere, thanks for joining me. I want to talk today, guys, about how agentic AI can benefit your business and your life. This is something that I've been immersing myself in a lot over the last couple of months. My goal basically today is for you to go away from this with your eyes opened up a little bit around A, what agentic AI is, and B, how it can benefit you. So, this is not a how to use it tutorial. I will have some recommendations at the end for the threads to pull on for that. But this is not step one, click this button, then type this in. This is giving you some scope around big picture. What can you actually be doing with this? If you do have any questions on more of the technical aspects, feel free to ask them, but that won't be the focus for today. So, main things I want to go through with you. Firstly, how most people are currently using large language models, LLMs, which today, for ease of understanding, we'll just call AI. The difference between agent based AI or agentic AI and chat based AI, which is where I think most people are spending most of their time, the chat based AI. What agentic AI actually is, what it can do. So, what this tool is actually able to turn itself to. I want to talk through some use cases of what I have been using agentic AI for in the last couple of months. Then I'm going to open the floor to you guys. Some people who are attending this webinar live have already sent me through some questions and some tasks that they do. So I want to explore how you can use agentic AI to automate some of those in your business. And then at the end, I'll give you some sort of next steps in terms of where you can go from here with full implementation for your business and your life. So most people at the moment, and we have to understand those people who are pretty immersed in AI are inside this AI bubble, not a bubble like an economic bubble that's going to pop, because I think we're well beyond that happening. But they're inside this bubble and they sort of understand and know how AI works and they get the terminology. I want to keep this nice and simple, so not getting too jargony. Most people, I think, are currently using chat based AI. A lot of people will be using Chat GPT, they'll be using Gemini, maybe they're using Claude, which we're going to be talking about a little bit more today. Maybe they're using Perplexity, Microsoft Copilot, etc. This is where most people are currently using AI. The way that chat based AI works is basically you give it a prompt or you ask it a question and then it gives you an answer. You give it a single step of a task to do and it does that task for you. Then you give it another prompt, it gives you another answer. So basically you're prompting every single step of a task that you want to be done. Every single step needs to be done individually by that chat based AI model. Prompt response, prompt response, prompt response is how it's going currently. The difference with agentic AI is that instead of you giving a chat based AI a series of steps, do this, now do this, now do this, you basically give it an outcome. You give it a job. So instead of saying, do step one, now do two, now do three, you say to it, here is the output that I'm looking for. I am looking for XYZ job to be done, just as you would with a human. And this is probably a good mental model to approach agentic AI with. Think about this being a person, not to try and personify AI, but think about this as a person. If you have to micromanage that person, that is like using ChatGPT, where you have to tell them every step. However, if you're working with someone that you're trying to delegate something to and you trust in their abilities and you say, hey, you know what you're doing, I don't need to micromanage. I want you to give me this outcome, and it does that outcome. That is what agentic AI does. It gets you to an outcome. It's not something that you need to micromanage. It will work out how to do it itself. You give it a job, you give it an outcome, and it completes those steps on its own. So, chat based AI is like texting someone for help, sending a message to a mate, hey, can you help me with this? Whereas agentic AI is like hiring someone to actually do the work for you and it's hands off for you, right? I use Cowork, which is from Claude. So Claude Cowork is probably the most the most safe and reputable of the agentic AIs at the moment. There are some ChatGPT products available. There are some Google products available, but Claude Cowork is leading the way at the moment. You may have heard about OpenClaw. OpenClaw is where a lot of this agentic AI started. The issue with this is that the guardrails are very low. So OpenClaw can do a lot. I'm not yet at the point where I'm trusting agentic AI models access to my bank accounts, to cryptocurrency wallets, to privileged private information. I'm not yet at that point, although it is worryingly rapidly earning that trust. And the way I sort of think about this in terms of trust is when you first start going out with someone, you first start dating someone, you don't give them the keys to your house on day one. It takes you a little while to build that trust. Exactly the same with agentic AI. You're not going to trust it straight away. So keep those guardrails high. And I'll talk about how we can do that in a moment at the start. And then it will build your trust over time. So if you're thinking, what is OpenClaw? I've heard about this. How does this compare to CoWork? CoWork, safer, more guardrails, less is probably going to go wrong. But of course, you still have to be cautious. So what can we use it for? Well, this is the exciting bit, right? So anything that I can do on my desktop, on my computer, anything that I can do that doesn't require information that lives only in my brain can be done by CoWork. So if there is something that is unique to me, if there's an idea that I've had and I want to write an article, for example, on a certain idea, it's a new thing that I think business owners should be measuring, and it's a novel idea that other people have not necessarily thought of before, it's not going to be able to do that because large language models are prediction machines, and all they're trying to do is finish the story that you start with a question that you ask. So, but anything else, anything that is not a new, unique, original idea stuck inside your brain, it can basically do. Okay. So Claude Cowork lives locally on your desktop. So this lives on your computer. This is not cloud-based. So just like any other non-cloud-based program or application that you would have on a computer, that's how Claude Cowork works. And it's basically local is the terminology for that. What you then do is you will give it access to certain files or programs, and it can also access the web through a Google Chrome plugin. So what I can basically do is I can say, all right, Claude Cowork or Claude, the desktop app, is installed on my computer. It can do anything with any documents on my computer that I want it to. It can do anything with any files or folders on my computer that I want it to. It can, using this Chrome plugin extension, surf the web. So I can sit here, I could be talking to you guys now, and in the background, I can have Claude Cowork doing work for me. I finish recording this webinar, it will send me a notification and say that work has all been done. So you can see it's effectively putting another person to work as I'm doing tasks that at this stage only I can do. Okay. It can also access things like your Google Drive. So I have given Claude access to my Gmail, my Google Calendar, my Google Drive, which is where I keep all of my documents, my Notion, which is where I keep any note taking. I've given it access to Canva. And again, I've given it access to Chrome. In terms of my hard drive and my desktop on my laptop, I've created a folder on my desktop, which is just called Claude, and I've given it permission to access that folder and anything in there. Those are the guardrails I have in place. So it can't just run around wildly through my hard drive, finding anything that I don't want to be feeding it. So I've given it those guardrails. And particularly as you start using this app, it is going to ask you almost constantly, can I have access to this? Can we make a connection to this? But as I said, for me, it has full access to my Gmail and can do anything in Gmail that I can. It has full access to my Google Calendar and can do anything in my calendar that I can. Same thing in Google Drive, same thing in Notion, same thing in Canva, same thing in Chrome. So anything that you can do on the internet or on your computer, it can also do for you on your behalf. Something that was helpful for me was putting together a bit of a list of some of the criteria for me that determine whether something can be done through cowork. Firstly, any repetitive recurring tasks that I do daily, weekly, monthly, etc., I'm now outsourcing to Claude Cowork. Any tasks that I pay people to do for me, which is sort of below my pay grade, I guess you could say. So my virtual assistant, unfortunately, is now out of a job. My bookkeeper is now unfortunately out of a job. So these tasks can now be done by Claude Cowork because they're these repetitive menial type tasks. Any tasks where I have to have multiple tabs open. So I have a browser open, multiple tabs, and I'm doing things between these different tabs. These can now be done by Agentic AI. Any computer-based work which is not knowledge work, so stuff that is not coming from my brain, where I'm creating unique ideas and thoughts from my brain, anything that would take me sort of 30 minutes to 2 hours is now being done by Claude Cowork. I'm no longer doing that menial stuff, which means all the stuff that I'm doing is the high end stuff, the higher order stuff that needs my brain to be able to do it. But of course, once I do that task for the first time and that information is no longer stuck in my brain, I can then outsource that to agentic AI as well. So basically, anything that requires knowledge that is not trapped in my brain, this can be doing for me. Okay. The way that I basically use this from a practical perspective is I have a set of tasks, they're called skills, which I have taught it. And what I do is I simply click run task whenever that task needs to be done. And I'll talk you through in a moment what some of those tasks are. But I simply click run task and cool, that task will be done. Usually what I do is I will set it to run just before I go to bed, and then I wake up in the morning and a night's worth of work has been done as my coworker basically does the work for me. And then I can focus on the stuff that actually needs me and my brain to be able to do it.